whose new book, latest book, Sit Yourself Down, A Novice's Journey into the Heart of Vipassana, is getting some rave reviews out there. And we have none other than our master of ceremony, Kaveree Bamzai, noted author herself and a very senior journalist who will take this session forward. Sit back, enjoy, and all your queries are more than welcome. Please put them on our chat window and both on Facebook and Zoom, and Kaveree ma'am will take them up during the course of the conversation. Thank you. Over to you, Kaveree ma'am.
Thank you so much. It's my special pleasure really today to introduce you to someone I've worked with very closely and someone I hold very dear to myself. Gayatri Jayaraman, she was my colleague in India today, but also more than just that, a person I respect hugely because she's always and we've had a sort of up and down kind of relationship at work, but I've always held very highly the idea that she had about being honest to herself, being true to her work, and really being very, very just up there with her ethics. And it's very rare to come across someone who works so hard and is so ethical, and yet is so much fun. And I have to say that Sit Yourself Down, Novice's Journey into the Heart of Vipassana, is really a whole lot like her as well. So really reading this is like talking to Gayatri. You know, the only thing is that you can close it sometimes, and sometimes Gayatri you can't switch off. But it's, ironically, really, this was her journey into meditation, into silence. But I think I'll let her talk about this rather than my interpretation of what she went through. So welcome, Gayatri. It's such a pleasure to have you with us here today.
Thank you so much, Kaveree. Hi, everybody. And before we begin, I want to say that Kaveree has been the editor that I have looked up to so much. She's been the first woman editor of India Today.
We'll do this mutual appreciation society later. I'm going to cut you off there, Gayatri. Today it's all about you. And I want to ask you really, what prompted this book? Because I read it and there's so much pain and so much suffering there. And you know, we all go through that, but sometimes we just sort of resign ourselves to it and say, it's okay, it's part of life, we learn to live with it. But you, you know, realize you wanted to do something about it, you know, and I see that, and it's such a strong will and it's so much determination. Tell me about how you came to the point where you wanted to do this, where you wanted to go into Vipassana. How did you come to that point first?
So a couple of things sort of led me there. One is my brother used to go every year. So it's something that's always been at the back of my mind. He's been going from the early sort of mid 2000s. I also had a nanny who I mentioned in the book who used to go every 10 days. So there were people around me. My mother has gone for Vipassana. So there was this curiosity about it, but the urge wasn't as pressing. And I think somewhere over the last 5 years or so, I sort of knew that I wanted to do something else with my life, but I did not know exactly what. And I kept searching for the answers. So the sort of quest had begun. I also lost a very close friend to suicide, and that was a trigger, I think, for me that said, you know, that put a sense of urgency to it. That life becomes somewhere meaningless if you haven't understood where you're going, why you're going, and you haven't equipped yourself with the tools to sort of deal with what comes at you. As we know from the media dialogues and what's out there today, you know, the strongest of us, we're all hiding some pain or the other. Nobody's pain is greater than somebody else's pain. All of our pain is great to us, whether other people understand that or not. And I had 10 days when my son finished his 12th standard board exams, and I said, if I don't go now, I won't go. I may not get this time again. So I just took off. I got the only place where I got a booking was in the Sikkim center, because the Vipassana course you book online, and sometimes the centers that are closer to Bombay, Delhi and stuff are sort of booked out months in advance. So on the dates that I was free, the only place I got in was Sikkim. I said, let's just go. And I took off and I went there. So that's how it sort of comes about.
Gayatri, I just want to take you back a bit to, losing a close friend to suicide. And this was a very strong person, someone who you thought would certainly deal with the pain of, what he was suffering. But as you said, the strongest of us really are hiding, some sort of pain. Why are we hiding that? That's what concerns me. Why can we? It's not that we don't necessarily have to talk about it all the time, but why are we so concerned about being so perfect?
I think one of the things is that society constantly teaches us that to show pain constantly is the sign of weakness. We always want to be people who can cope or who can come across as coping.
Right.
Because efficiency means we've got it all together. It means we never take breaks from our jobs. Our vacations are planned months in advance. Nothing goes wrong.
Right.
Our bank balance is full. We get those appraisals. And, there are certain socially perceived milestones that we have to be hitting on point, which means we are okay.
Right.
So what this does is, one is it keeps our mind on those milestones. And second, it puts up those milestones as a facade. That is, you can show people that if I've got all this down, I'm good.
Right.
So inside, the sort of crumbling that's happening, whether it's something, it's a life situation you don't want to be in, whether it's a marriage or a job,
Right.
or a relationship gone wrong, all of that stays hidden so that this picture is not affected. And to some extent now, I would say it's even become a little fashionable to say, I just can't cope, I need to take a break and stuff. But none of that. It's kind of like in job interviews when they ask you what are your flaws, and you don't say I steal office stationery, but you say, oh, I just work so hard.
Right.
I don't know when to switch off. And we're all doing that even on social media and stuff, even when we're saying, I just can't cope, I wish I didn't have to sit up at night, but are you actually taking that time off and going and healing yourself? We're not.
Right. But one of the concerns, Gayatri, is that, we seem to be on that treadmill. And then, as you've written, how do you get off that treadmill? How do you, decide that, okay, this is the point. Sometimes an opportunity presents itself like it did to you. But sometimes, you just can't seem to make the time and you make one excuse after another. Are there any warning signs that tell you that, look, do something about it now? Before it's too late? Is there something that we should be reading, looking out for?
So in fact, I was telling a friend just this morning that, our anxieties rise kind of like, the beeping on an elevator when there are too many people in it.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get into that elevator if it keeps beeping, right? None of us want to fall to the ground.
Yeah.
We will step off and wait for it to be readjusted or wait for the next one. But in life, the signs that come up are when we're not sleeping properly, or when we have just way too much anxiety, our thoughts are running into each other, when we're using numbing devices. This can be like binge eating that we're doing, or we're binge watching nonsense on YouTube, or just ways to sort of get us out of ourselves. We lack interest in the stuff that we're doing. We don't feel motivated. So there are so many of these signs. And yes, I do have the sort of luxury of looking at this from hindsight, because now that I'm not in that space, I see it more clearly.
Yeah.
I feel so much better. I feel more put together. I feel clear. I feel less burdened. Therefore, when I look back, I can say, oh, all of these are warning signs. For that, one has to stop. One has to sort of, and all of us have our own sort of warning signs. It's different for me. It could be different for you. And for somebody, it could be lashing out in anger. It could be just, just silently keeping it all in and feeling just physically heavier and heavier every day. Headaches, migraines, so many ways in which our bodies signal to us that we are in pain, that we cannot cope. And you only realize that when you completely stop. you know. And I'm saying completely stop, because I've been on those vacations before where you go to Goa, you take your laptop and you say, I'm writing the draft of my next novel.
Right.
Like, that is also work, that is also connected to what you want to be, money you want to make, um, an image you want to project.
Yeah.
So that you're still not stopping. Most of us
Right.
on vacations are also ticking off lists of places we want to go to,
Yeah.
things to post to Instagram. And so by stop, I mean just completely and utterly stop. You
Yeah.
know, just do not switch off your phone, switch off your laptop, and just sit for 10 days if you can with yourself. And we have to do that. There's no other way to know the extent of what we're carrying.
Right. And you did that, Gayatri, because I remember you were quite a force on social media, and you had considered opinions on everything. I used to follow you very closely, and it was a joy actually. I felt quite deprived when you left. But you did that. You felt that there was too much of yourself that you were giving out. Did you feel emotionally exhausted, intellectually exhausted?
When I switched it off, I had 24,000 followers and a verified account.
Yeah.
I now have thousand, maybe less than thousand, and not certainly not verified or anything. And I don't do columns or give out my opinions on everything.
Right.
And when I went off, it was initially because I couldn't cope.
Right.
There was just I had the sense that there was just too much coming at me, too much opinion, too much anger, and a lot of what we see on Twitter and social media, if you see, is very angry.
Yes.
It's very upset. It's very wishing the way things were other than they are. It's very unhappy. Uh, and you know, that can be too much when you're already coping with your own unhappiness. We're piling it on.
Yeah.
And we don't have the bandwidth for that. So one thing that it helped me to delete my account for a year. I didn't realize that the whole thing would be gone when I came back, but I'm glad it is. Um, because I feel that this sort of, it gave me a chance to restart and sort of be, uh, I'm a very different person today. I can't be reactive. Sometimes I try to be. You know, there are important issues,
Yeah.
and I think I need to have an opinion on this. Otherwise, you know, I'm missing out adding my voice to this.
Like all journalists, we feel that we have to say something, do something, write
So
something.
that instinct is still there, you know. But the thing is, the meditation, and now I meditate for an hour every day, sometimes 2 hours. It puts such a pause between that rise of a thought to how it expresses itself, which is the biggest change for me. I am unable, I will sometimes type out a tweet and withdraw it. I will write out a column and delete it, which I know it seems like a very simple thing, but that huge, it's a, it's it's just a much calmer space where you sort of realize that everything doesn't need your response,
Right.
not even your own impulses.
Yeah, absolutely. And but this is something you taught yourself, Gayatri. I mean, this is all self-taught. When you went into Vipassana, you were looking for a teacher, you were looking for a guru. Did you feel that your learning so far had been self-guided? Now you wanted someone to guide you. How did you get there?
One thing I've learned over the past 2 years is that when you're ready, when you're just open, the teaching you need comes to you. And it's been a journey. Like from Vipassana, I've gone into counseling psychology. From counseling psychology, I applied for my graduate school, and graduate school, of course, got deferred because of the pandemic. Now I'm studying a certificate course in Buddhist psychology with an institute in Pune. And in each phase, I just reached a point where I knew I needed to learn, and I reached out into whatever resources seemed available to me, and somehow a teacher always responded.
Right.
And in fact, when I came out from Vipassana, one of the first people I emailed was Cornelius, at Mr. Cornelius Matheson at the Aurobindo Institute of Psychology. And he guided me to another place. And then from there, I went into XICP. XICP said, you know, you must do your graduate. So, you know, my point is that at each stage, the things you need to know sort of, and I don't mean this as mumbo jumbo. I don't mean it as, you know, the universe responds to you. I don't.
Yeah, to do the
yeah,
best
the yeah, not the Shah Rukh thing, but what I mean is more that you sort of become in sync. Your lens becomes open to the things that you genuinely need, and so you spot them. It's kind of like you there is actually a psychological exercise which anybody can do, which is just close your eyes for 20 minutes and think of the color red. And when you open your eyes for the next hour, you will only spot all the red things in the room.
Right.
And that's how we train our lens. We can train our lens to be negative, or we can train our lens to look for what we need. So it's more that what you focus your mind on is what you will spot.
Right.
You know? So it's just that realignment of your gaze and your perspective.
How different was this whole process from your journey in journalism?
Oh, radically different. Somebody who we know, a mutual friend, had once called me a Rottweiler.
How charming.
Because I chase stories like that.
Right.
I
But you
have
did
never
such wonderful stories, Gayatri. You've done Ai Weiwei, you've done that whole village of IVF women in the surrogate mothers near Anand. I mean, you've done some fantastic stories. Let's not sort of underrate those.
Yeah.
Done some great
No,
journalism.
I have enjoyed journalism, but also I have enjoyed journalism in the sense of I knew I wanted to be of use to the people I spoke to.
Yeah.
So there was that in me that it was very, very fulfilled by the opportunities I got to do that. We've done some amazing work together at India Today, also at Mint Lounge, at Hindustan Times. I think I've done stories that I'm genuinely proud of having contributed, and I feel that they helped the people that they spoke with. But in terms of work then becomes one portion of one's identity, you know, and the need to help just became larger. The need to actually be useful in one's life, because I also kind of felt that journalism, I spoke with them, I wrote about it, and it was over. I never went back to them. I never lifted people out of their misery in practical terms. I sort of described their misery and moved on from there. And I had, especially the last 10 years, a very fruitful career, but I just felt like I wanted to do more. And I didn't want to only be writing about others. I wanted to be in a position where the help I leave them with is tangible, is something that they can use. Which is why when most people leave journalism, they go into PR, and I always knew I could not do PR. I could not do CopCom. I needed something.
You'd be a disaster, Gayatri.
Yeah, I'll be a disaster. I have zero public relations skills.
No, because it's so fake. I mean, and you're so true to yourself. It could be a disaster.
Yeah. No, but also I will say that the first 10 years of journalism, I didn't realize it then, but I was an angry person.
Right.
I was somewhere inside me. I was a fearful person and I was an angry person. And I realized that today, looking back, that I was constantly running from something.
Right.
You know?
And you've said that in the book.
Yeah. And I feel like some of the better stories I did came where that fear and that anger sort of resonated. So it became fear for others, anger for others, and I could translate that. but I needed to release that fear and anger, which going back to your previous question is why it's so completely fallen off that I have lost the ability to outrage. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and therefore
Sorry, Gayatri. We just lost you for a bit. You said you'd lost completely the ability to outreach. Hello? Can you hear me, Gayatri?
Uh, Gayatri, just log off and log in once again. Can you hear us now?
Can you hear us?
We can't, Gayatri.
Can't hear you.
you can't hear me.
Oh,
No, now
I
it's better.
can.
Perfect. Please
Oh,
go ahead. Yeah, thanks.
Sorry, Gayatri, we lost you briefly where you said that you'd lost the ability to outreach.
To outrage, you
Yeah.
know. So I feel like the kind of response that today's journalism requires, you know, quick on your feet, giving, translating the anger that exists in the external environment. I'm not able to step back into that stream because I don't have that anger resonating within me.
Right.
And that's when I realized that I was a much angrier person earlier, which is why I could do my job, because it resonated.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Before we go on, to sort of step deeper into Vipassana, I want to talk a bit about this anger and this outrage and this sort of sense of victimhood that seems to be all pervasive. What explains what's going on, Gayatri? Especially, you're in Mumbai, you're in the heart of the Sushant Singh Rajput case. And you've seen this before to a certain extent with the Indrani Bora case as well, which
Yeah.
you wrote very powerfully about. What is going on? What are we seeing?
What we're seeing, I think, is, and I won't comment on this case specifically because I haven't followed it in that detail. But what I understand is, and I was watching The Social Dilemma the other day.
Yeah.
And there's a
On
point
Netflix.
on
Yeah.
Netflix. It's a beautiful documentary.
Absolutely.
But there's a point at the end, towards the last 5 minutes, where he says, we all need to arrive at a single idea of the truth or we're screwed. Right? And I heard that line and I was like, oh no, you've got it so wrong.
Yeah.
You know, because what we simply need, and he sort of looks at how we all are living in our own realities, and which is now being manipulated by multiple factors.
Right.
And we are getting fed what we trigger to, which is what I meant by what is within us is what resonates outside.
Right.
So if I'm an angry person, all the anger is what I'm spotting
Yeah.
and latching on to. And that gets amplified by these algorithms.
Right.
And therefore, I reach a point where I'm so angry, I'm at breaking point, and I contribute that more out into the world.
Right.
You know, and one thing I've realized through this process is what you are full of is what you will give out.
Right.
I cannot give out joy, love, compassion, peace unless I feel it deeply, until I'm full of it myself. And in order to be full of it myself, I have to give it to myself. And when we go to just a very basic space of the body, you know, we even reject our own bodies. And I don't mean in terms of body shaming, forget the public, what happens in the media. In our own everyday life, we eat so reluctantly. We don't embrace ourselves. We don't sit with a sense of love, because we are constantly rejecting everything our body is telling us.
Right.
We don't have conversations with our body. We don't know where it pains. If it pains, we put something on it and tell it to shut up.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are living in a constant state of self-rejection. All our thoughts were like, no, I don't want to think that way. I don't want to behave that way. I don't want to feel that way. What do we want to feel like? And until we come to that sense of equilibrium within ourselves, we will not be able to find that outside. And the more that we reject ourselves, we reject others. You know, and the more compassion we give ourselves, we sort of look back and see, you know what, I made this mistake because I was at a very difficult place in my life.
Right.
And I'm sure that my actions have impacted others. So maybe that person is also caught in his stream of, you know,
Right.
anger and difficult place. So maybe I should give him a break. And in Buddhism, we study the idea of absolute reality and sort of relative reality. And the fact is, you know, there is no one reality for all of us. So, you know, just if I may take a minute to give you this really interesting example I was taught by my teacher, which is, you know, to ask people, are you in the room or is the room in you?
Right.
Okay, which is a principle of reality. We think we are in this room,
Right.
but this room is just a set of images in our head. If I don't see it, I don't see the room.
Right.
So the room exists as a couple of inverted images in my occipital lobe.
Right.
So am I in the room or is the room in me? Reality, when you split it down to the Buddhist philosophy, is so atomic, it's so subatomic.
Right.
That when I don't even know if what I'm seeing around me is real,
Right.
how can I go to war with you because you believe something else? Your everything you believe is based on your reality, not mine.
Right.
You know, so you don't reach a sense of peace or compassion or understanding for others until you come down to the basic fact that my reality is mine and your reality is yours, and we just have to agree to disagree.
Right. Right. And I think that is really the start of, but the start is to have compassion for yourself.
You have to, none of this insight comes by, we don't become saints externally, we don't, you know, none of that. If you can't be kind to yourself, you cannot be kind to another.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Right.
Feed yourself before you feed another.
Right.
Teach yourself before you teach another. Heal yourself before you heal another.
Right. But Gayatri, the whole of society works towards, making us keep up this facade, and you've talked about it as well, of being a strong woman, an independent woman, a single mother, keeping it together, always sort of, having your story in time and, keeping your deadlines, meeting all your milestones, as you had said. So, I was so struck by the idea that you at one point thought you were a failure. Why would you think that? Because society expects certain expectations of you, and you feel you've not achieved them. But that's when you have to realize that failure is relative, success is relative, and failure is actually, well, in a way, all of us are failures, but success is relative, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do know the sentence that you're sort of alluding to, which comes in the epilogue.
Yes.
Where I do call myself a failure. In that sense, in the sense that I've used it in the book, in the sense that you're speaking about, you're absolutely right. Success is so relative.
Yeah.
In the sense that I've used it in the book because it comes at the end. I call myself a failure because I wasn't doing the things that I wanted to do.
Okay, right.
I wanted to be, an author. I wanted to have a certain kind of a house.
Yeah, I know.
I wanted to be Ruth Prawal Chabawala. And
I love that. So did I.
Yeah. So, when we grew up, we had these images and icons in our head, which we aspired to. And if you look at all of our images, no matter who we are, they were always wholesome. They were always fun. They were always happy.
Yeah.
And somewhere we let that go in the drudgery of living our lives.
Yeah.
And no matter how much success we get in that, we live in a market economy which thrives on lack. We are the market economy moves to a very different cycle, and the cycle is determined by lack. Uh, so we are constantly in this state of anxiety. Nothing we do is ever going to be enough. No milestone is enough. No job is enough. No designation is enough. No income hike is enough.
Right.
And we know this from lottery winners who are miserable. I think there was a story about the guy who won 5 crores on
Absolutely. Yeah.
Crorepati. So what is enough?
Yeah.
You know, and by that logic, I feel like a failure because I feel like I somewhere deep inside knew the things I wanted, and I allowed those to be compromised. So I say it more in the sense of I failed myself. You know, I feel like now in the last 2 years I'm sort of living, though I've always been the kind of person who I thought did whatever I wanted. You know, I got married to who I wanted, I walked out when I wanted, I dated who I wanted, I did the jobs I wanted. So it's not that I know I have a lot more privilege than a lot of people, and I have also fought for a lot of those privileges. I have disappointed a lot of people, but even in doing that, I still went to a metric that was not my own. Because somewhere I was still caught up in keeping up appearances or showing people that I had it together.
Right.
You know? I didn't have it together. And this whole book is about how much I did not have it together.
Right.
You know? And I feel like that vulnerability needs to, you can't start again until you strip it down.
Yeah. One of the most deeply affecting parts of the book is when you're crying and your teacher is saying, but why are you crying? And you're crying as if you're full, as if you'll collapse. You know, you cry so much and it's almost like a little a movie that's playing out and everyone comes to see you and, you know, everyone. But you need to do that. You need to cry, you need to weep, you need to let go.
Yeah.
To begin again, don't you?
It's almost cellular, that kind of release that I have experienced, and I've not cried like that ever in my life, nor have I after that. And it was just it was such release. I can't even explain it, because it was, for the first time, I understood my life. I understood where I was coming from. I understood what I was running from. I understood what I was doing it for, what I imagined I was doing it for. So there was just, you know, there was just me in that moment. And it was just so, we go through life building these walls, you know, that sort of defend us. We're constantly in this defensive position.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how outgoing we project ourselves as, none of us like to be hurt.
Right.
And we have been hurt in some way or the other. No matter how loving our parents, our families, our husbands, children, we all get hurt in one way or the other. And every time we get hurt, we're building up this wall.
Yeah.
And that accumulation is just self-protective. It is, but it also keeps in our anger and our fears. It sustains our fears that no, don't break this down. Didn't you learn your lesson the last time?
Right.
You know, and to just see all that crumble was just, it was almost, I feel like I don't want to sound evangelical, but it sounds like it felt like a rebirth. You know, it felt I could let go. I could let go of a lot.
So what, you know, we talked a little about meditation, and I wonder the conversation you have with your teenager, because when I talk about it to my teenager, I only get, you know, rolling of the eyes in response, you know, and it's all sort of mumbo jumbo, I'm told, and, you know, I'm really becoming too old believing all this nonsense. But do you have that sense as well? Do you get that reaction, and what's your response to that?
Absolutely. I'm told it's mumbo jumbo. I'm told I've joined a cult, and a different cult every week or month. You know, I'll be meditating and then I'll hear noises, you know, deliberately slurping uh, to see how my I can hear everything, but it's a challenge not to start laughing.
Right.
So, but I think teenagers also need to have that skepticism.
Yeah.
You know, I do think that somebody like him, he's a fine, rational atheist mind.
Hmm.
And he's going to be a great lawyer someday. But also, he needs to. When I look at him, I think if he meditated,
Hmm.
he doesn't know how much more clear his mind will be,
Right.
how much more free of burdens.
Hmm.
But I also asked him to watch The Social Dilemma, and he refused because I asked him. Okay, so they are in,
Teenagers for you.
yeah. So, and I wish I had then said, oh, you must not watch the show.
Yeah, it's terrible.
But but I also think that I would not have arrived at my own truths
Yeah.
if I had been asked to come to them.
Right.
I These truths mean something to me because they've come through my process.
Hmm.
And my parents were like that. They never shoved religion down our throats, or they never made us. Of course, they taught us what they needed to teach us and bought us the books and made us sit for this puja and whatever, and told us basically. But there was never a compulsion. And I grew up reading from the Upanishads to the Bible, everything which was at home,
Hmm.
and sort of understanding what I needed to understand from it. Um, and I think that's a good principle to follow when it comes to things like universal truths and relative truths. People have to arrive at their own truth always.
But we as parents or as some kind of leaders in society or whatever need to give people enough options that they can look at and they can read and they can comprehend. Otherwise, how will they come to those truths?
Um, I think for me, the philosophy that sort of works is just have kids never do what we tell them to do. They do what they see us doing.
Right.
I read because I saw my uncles and my dad and my mom read. The
Hmm.
books were always accessible. They were in bookshelves across the house, and there were all kinds of books, from baby books to the um, really difficult ones, commentaries and stuff. And I think when and I remember saying this to a friend of mine about even the whole gay rights movement and the LGBTQIA thing. There are a lot of people who talk about the progressiveness of their lives, but they don't have a single gay friend.
Right.
And I know a couple of my friends in the gay community get very irritated when journalists especially call them up and say, do you know anybody who's facing this?
Yeah.
And they're like, in all these years that we've been struggling, do you not have 3 friends in the community you can call?
Right.
Why do you call the same 3 people and say, give us somebody to speak to?
Right.
um, and I have started judging people by that, by looking at what they do and not what they say.
Right.
How they live.
Hmm.
There are a lot of people who talk very progressively on social media, and I'm absolutely sure they vote very conservatively. So, let us just, I think the best thing for kids is for us to live the things we want them to know. And a lot of my going back to college also now is, I think when my son is a husband or a partner someday, he will respect a woman who follows her own path and finds her own truth,
Right.
because he's seen it.
Right.
So it's important for me that he witnesses that and he is a part of that.
There's a question, in fact, that's somewhat related from Rupal Vyas to you, Gayatri, which says, apart from saying this conversation is very insightful, so congratulations, which says that how about toddlers? Can you comment on how they need to be sort of socialized in this?
How toddlers need to be
Yeah.
socialized.
Yeah.
Um, well, that's a difficult one because mine was a toddler 18 years ago, so my memory may be a little slow on this. But my general principle as a parent has been get out of their way.
Right.
Just let them do what they need to do, and give them a good environment.
Yeah.
You know, what happens when you are meditative, you become calm and you become happy and peaceful. That sort of translates to everybody around you. So you don't need to teach them something specifically.
Right. I mean, they'll just see it around them, and hopefully it's something that they will learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Gayatri, talk a little about the whole Vipassana process itself for you. You chronicled it in a very detailed manner in the book, from day 1 to day 10. But really, some of the highlights that readers who may not have read the book would like to, would like to hear about.
Okay. So Vipassana, going in for my
Sorry,
first.
Rupal has an additional question. But this pandemic is taking a toll on them. My toddler has become very irritable, poor thing. Do you want to handle that?
Yeah, I wanted to know if Rupal, you're being irritable. You
Ah,
know, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling nervous. In which case, see, the simple commonality between meditation as well as psychology is that you can only control what you can control.
right,
And what you primarily can control is yourself.
right,
You can't force anybody else to feel calmer. But the minute you are calmer, the minute you lower your voice, the minute you feel very still, you take time for yourself, people around you will start to feel that effect.
right, right. Sorry, Gayatri, let's go back to the actual process of Vipassana, which you've described in great detail. Talk to us a little about it so that readers know exactly what you're referring
Okay. So when I went in for Vipassana, I wasn't very sure about, though you can find the timetable on their
to. Yeah,
website and stuff like that. So there are 10 days, which is the minimum course of the first level. Men and women stay separately. The first night, there is an orientation. They ask for your consent to be taught Vipassana. And then after dinner, which is the last night that you'll have dinner, there is noble silence. Noble silence is not just not speaking. You don't also look at people and gesticulate or make gestures. This complete non-communication. The next day's course begins at 4:30. 4:30 till 6:30 there is meditation. Yeah, 6:30 to 8 is breakfast, bath, and all of that.
Hmm.
Then 8 to 11 again is meditation. 11, 12, 1 is a lunch break. In Vipassana, you don't eat after 12 o'clock.
right,
You finish lunch at 11 and then there's no food. 1 o'clock, there's again meditation, which is in 2 sessions,
right,
till around, I think, 4:30. 4:30, the new students get chai, and the old students get, I think they get chai and kurmura, like,
yeah. You said Muri.
muri.
I paid
Uh,
a lot of attention to the food, Gayatri.
I think the food in each center is different, but Sikkim was really lovely. Yeah. And then the old students now get just nimbu juice, so you don't get acidity.
Right.
And then 6 o'clock again till so 4:30 to 6 to 7:30 is a session. 7:30 to 8:30 is a discourse, or 8:30 or 9, and then 9 to 9:30 is another meditation session. And then by that time you're like, please give me my bed.
I want to sleep.
The first 4 days are what they call anapanasati, which is a focus on the breath. It takes that long just to get comfortable to sit and to focus. The fourth day they teach you Vipassana. Vipassana is not something I want to summarize in a few lines, but it is essentially a deeper sort of understanding of mind, body, and spirit alignment. So you focus on the body, on sensations with your mind, and it's very, very deep concentration. And that through the process from day 4 to day 10, as you go through that focus on the body, you notice so much more about yourself at a very micro level.
Right,
And that's where a lot of the insight comes from.
right, right. So what did you feel from day 4 to day 10? What were the things that you felt that surprised you?
One is just the very first thing is just the simple amount of excruciating pain. It's physical pain now. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just going to lift this. Now I sit sort of cross-legged like this all the time.
Right.
But this comes from sitting 15 hours a day in a day.
Right.
This has become my default position now. Sorry, I didn't mean to expose you all to my jeans and my.
You're pretty spiffy, so that's fine.
But what I meant to say was that now this has become so natural to me that I sit like this pretty much everywhere. But when you first begin sitting, your lower limbs are just see, some of us are used to sitting like this for meals at home if we come from an Indian home.
Yeah.
But that's also a few like 15 minutes or something like that. And you can shift your position substantially. In Vipassana, the first few days especially, you can shift your position. But you will lose focus every time you shift. So it's better not to. Secondly, the meditative process itself throws up a lot of pain. Yeah. Not that it gives you pain, you become aware of the pain that you are carrying in your body. Right. And this is something that I've learned from psychology later, is that the body wears the trauma. Yeah. Right? So every emotional pain that you have dealt with in your life is still sitting on your body. Right. All our stress sits on our neck, on our hips, all our unfulfilled desires, all our wishes that, all these kind of aches, agonies, the things we wish we could have said sits in our throat, in our mind. They surface as migraines, the things that we leave unsaid are sitting on our body. Right. And the 4 days are just excruciating when you begin to observe them. Right. And one thing that struck me was there were also people who take chairs. Right. But sitting on chairs does not mean you feel less pain. Right. And that's when you realize that this is not about the position I'm sitting in. Right. It's about what I'm carrying in me. Right. And to me, that was a huge shock, because imagine how numb we have become to ourselves. Yeah. That we are walking around like this. Mm-hmm. We are living with this, and we don't see it on a daily basis. Yeah. So, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is just to sit and have that conversation with your body and just allow yourself to let go of it, Right. Yeah.
But of course, everyone's experience with pain will be different. You've seen that.
I think everybody is coming to insight is different, like what that pain means to you. But there is pain. Vipassana is very rigorous, and the pain is kind of universal. Right. So I won't sugarcoat it. When you go into Vipassana, it is going to hurt.
Right, right. But do you emerge lighter, as you said? You emerge lighter. You emerge less burdened. You emerge less sort of in on yourself. Do you emerge like that?
Ma'am, she has dropped.
Could you just help her, Pawan?
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Should I call her?
Yeah, just ask her to log in again.
Okay,
That's
okay,
it.
Great.
Yeah.
Gayatri, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, she's here.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Great. So, Gayatri, that you were talking about that pain. I'm saying that when you emerge from it, is that experience also universal? How you emerge from it, or is it very individual?
It's very individual, because I know people who've gone to Vipassana and felt nothing. I know people who've gone for it and felt like leaving in a couple of days. There are people, like the teachers tell us, there are people who keep coming for courses. So, and I don't think we should also compare, because it's not like because I have these certain insights earlier, my meditation is better than yours, or, something like that, or I'm more evolved or anything. It's just that we all arrive at our insights based on where we are in our lives and what we need at that moment. So I think it's also very important not to fall into these conceptual traps of when it must occur.
Right.
So it's take your time. If it works for you, it works for you. And I'm also not an evangelist of only Vipassana will work for you, nothing else will work for you.
You said you can reach your truth through many other ways.
Yeah, for somebody else it might be a completely different way of meditation. This worked for me, and if you want to give Vipassana a try, the way and I know it's worked for many people. So it has certain, especially in our time when we need something that's very for me, the biggest draw was, don't accept anything until you've experienced it yourself.
Right.
And that focus makes it extremely, I think, relatable for a lot of us in this era where we don't want to just believe in anything.
Right.
We question a lot of things.
Right. The other thing that you also say is that the only way to release is to feel, and to feel is to also feel pain, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and so it's not that the suffering ends when your Vipassana course ends. It's not that you suddenly don't feel pain. You do.
You do, but it's so Gestalt psychology has a principle which says the only way past your pain is through it.
Right.
And most of us spend our lives avoiding our pain.
Yeah.
We avoid our conflict. The thing is today, and I think for me, this came because my Vipassana happened a year and a half ago. I had 1 year of counseling psychology. So when the lockdown hit,
yeah,
and a lot of people were spiraling, I felt nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, I felt nothing, to the point where I called up my therapist and I said, "Is something wrong with me?" Okay, why can I not feel? Why am I not?
Are you not getting anxious, or
Yeah, and that's when I realized that the practice has put so much. It's basically, to put it in its simplest form, meditation puts a pause.
Right.
It's like this huge insulating cushion where you see a provocation, you see something coming at you that you will in ordinary times want to react to. You want to feel that anger towards fear, anxiety, whatever it is, and inside you've said, but I don't. It's just a what do I say, a practice that says, hang on, don't react to it right now.
Right.
So it's not that I haven't had the uncertainties of the lockdown that everybody else has had. I also don't have a job. I've been a student for 1.5 years.
Yeah.
My savings are running out. My college year has been deferred. I need to send my son off to college. I have house cleaning. I have exactly the same problems that everybody
all
else
of
has.
us. Yeah.
All of us have it right now. And I think somewhere I've left journalism, which has gone into a hiring freeze, and I'm not yet joined counseling, where I'm less qualified than a whole lot of people. So I'm stuck in this middle zone. But I don't feel anxious. I am aware that I have all these problems to cope with. I am aware that I have the tools to cope with them. And I also have the sense of being in a pause which says, when the right opportunity comes, I will take it. I don't want what is not the right opportunity. And I am willing to wait for what works for me.
Right.
Because my goals have become more streamlined. I know it's not that I will never write again, but I will write a certain kind of writing.
Right.
So, the alignment happens.
Right. Also, Gayatri, we've also learned to live with less, haven't we? One of the greatest lessons, and I think one of the greatest joys for me from the lockdown has been to know how little we actually need, which is
Yeah,
something that we'd
yeah,
forgotten.
absolutely. I think this lockdown, for those of us who've had the
We were
privilege to have
privileged,
our
yeah, of
basic
course. We were
needs
privileged,
met,
yeah.
has been a blessing in many ways. Those of us who are not living in, I'm just going to stop. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Gayatri.
Yeah. So I'm just going to switch that video off for a little bit so that at least the audio comes through.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, so I feel like for those of us who've had the privilege to have our basic needs met, who don't live situations or family members who we have to be wary of,
Yeah.
there's a lot to take from these months of lockdown, which has given us the ability to spend time with our families, to realign our roles towards each other.
Hmm.
My neighbor, for instance, has just had a baby yesterday, and I've seen for the past 6 months that her husband, who's working from home because she's been pregnant without house help, has been literally sweeping and swabbing every day
That's
before he sits and starts his work. And I know we have these narratives about horrible men, but
yeah.
also when we look around, we see that the good ones really do step up,
Right.
and there's a lot. I feel they're a young couple, they must be in their 30s,
Right.
just early 30s, and I feel so good to see them.
Right.
They're happy, touch wood, they're there for each other, you
Right.
know so there's a lot of good that's come from this.
Gayatri, I think one of the last questions I want to ask you is, at some point during the book, you also talked about suicide attempts, that, there were times that you considered it. What were those moments like?
So those for me were very long ago.
Yeah.
Those were around 20 years ago when I was going through a really bad situation in my personal life. And that's one thing that I think has been also made very clear during a lot of the media narratives, and a lot of mental health activists on Twitter and social media have been trying to clarify that, especially in India, a lot of uh, uh, these kind of attempts are not necessarily linked to depression. They can also be situational, as we see with farmers, who get into debt and they think they don't have another option.
Right.
So there was a point in my life when I was in a bad personal situation, and I did not know that there was a way out,
Hmm.
and therefore I had multiple attempts. I was in hospital once or twice, I don't know, and it was a terrible time in my life. But I also am thankful to the fact that um, I was given the tools to exit that situation. I did have supportive parents, I did have supportive friends, I did have a supportive boss who gave me a transfer. And at that time, as bleak as it seemed,
Hmm.
um, I managed to get out of it.
Hmm.
You know, I also, honestly, one of the reasons I had my son, and a lot of people have said to me, is like, when you're in a bad relationship, you need to. Why did you have a kid? You should
Right.
have just exited. I actually had my son so that I would not harm myself.
Right.
It was because I knew that if he was inside, I would not be doing things that would harm myself,
Right.
because I would need to protect him.
Right.
So we all come up with ways of coping
Hmm.
that help us get out of that pull us out of that situation onto the next
Hmm.
level. I think for a lot of people who are listening and who may be feeling very triggered, it's important to reach out, talk about it,
Right.
express that to somebody, and get the help you need.
Right.
Just take it.
Right. And
Yeah.
Gayatri, Shama that you've launched is really
Yeah.
part of that. I mean, you're really trying to help people. Talk a
Yeah.
little about that as well, please.
Okay. So when I came out of Vipassana, I knew straight up that this was changing my life,
Right,
and I wanted people to be able to access it.
right,
As you said earlier, not everybody has the ability to go and take 10 days and go
yeah,
into a retreat. So I wanted to be able to use meditative techniques in their personal lives.
right,
And I do believe that people need to use counseling and therapy alongside meditation,
mm,
because sometimes people now, since meditation courses or online programs are available everywhere, a lot of people are trying it for themselves. And what happens when you try it without a teacher is that you go in too deep, or you bring up certain
mm,
um, revelations or insights that you don't know how to deal with, and you don't have a teacher at hand to go and say, should I be feeling this way?
mm,
And there's a lot of correction that needs to keep happening. So teachers are very important in the meditative process, just like counselors or psychologists are in the therapeutic process. The subconscious is a very difficult territory. It's tricky territory. You shouldn't be getting into it by reading a book or just watching a TED talk. So you need guidance. And my so shama is something that uses, I also don't believe in counseling entirely on its own,
mm,
because I think you can go to therapy for years and achieve nothing.
mm,
Meditation allows you to go deep.
mm.
Counseling gives you structure.
Right,
So and I also do believe you need body work. So mine is a mind body spirit practice
right,
that uses techniques from all of these to sort of bring you into alignment.
right, right. And has it helped people? Have you seen it changing lives, or at least changing immediate situations?
Absolutely, because I think when you use, mine is a new practice, so I can't say I have like, it's a very tiny little thing, but the few regular clients that I have, I think just understanding the way the mind and the body work in tandem is a huge process of realignment that we all, even I'm coming to sort of understand. We don't understand the triggers of even why we eat, and for a long time all my diets went out the window until I went to Vipassana, and I realized that it's okay to feel hunger.
Yeah,
Just because you feel hunger doesn't mean you have to eat.
right.
And till today I do not eat after 11 o'clock. I continue to follow that. And
Wow.
it's not a weight loss issue, it's
Yeah,
an impulse control issue.
right,
And
right,
for me, just that one insight changed the way I eat.
right.
So small
Yet
techniques like that.
enjoy when you do it.
Yeah, enjoy. So I don't limit what I eat. I just don't eat all the time or feel the need to eat all the time. Or even things like, the way yoga, I use yoga or qigong to, help people understand. It's called the somatic sort of reflection of
Right,
trauma,
right.
which is like we're always in this defensive positions.
Yeah,
Our
yeah,
shoulders are
yeah.
like this, our jaws are clenched. These small things, which is releasing the way you clench your jaw, put your shoulder back. This itself brings in relaxation.
Right.
In fact, a small tip is like when one is in a argument or a conflict with a partner or a child, if you just change your physical posture. Okay, when we argue, we're like this,
Yeah,
right? When you just change your physical, you don't have to say a thing, just change how you sit
mm,
or how you're standing in front of the person. Immediately the situation will de-escalate,
right.
because you've gone to an open position, and that comes from yoga, qigong, body work,
Right.
understanding the mind, understanding the energy. So it absolutely changes situations.
So what now for you, Gayatri? Are you going to go back to school this month? Or are you planning to continue the practice? How will you manage?
So my clients currently are mostly online, because we've
Right.
still not started seeing clients in person.
Yeah.
Um So I will go back to that. One of the things I'm really looking forward to is something called Walk of the Five Senses that I do
Yeah,
with women,
that's right.
which is just walking meditations, and I love doing it with women especially because it's you can meditate wherever you are. You don't need to go to a mountain retreat or something like that. So as lockdown lifts, that's something I'm looking forward to doing. The second is I am currently part of a certificate course in Buddhist meditation and ethics, Buddhist psychology and ethics, sorry. So we have an online group of around 24 people, and we study with my teacher, Mrs. Asha Pillai Balsara from WCCLF in Pune. So I'm studying on the weekends. I'm doing a column for Money Control. I'll soon be starting one for Mental Lounge on mental health, wellness related issues. And and my next book is going to my publisher hopefully this week, which is a mind body spirit alignment thing. So there's a lot happening. My master's in psychology has been deferred to next year.
Right.
But also at the same time, it's kind of like, as J. Krishnamurti said, I don't mind what happens.
Right.
I'm good. Whatever comes, I'm good.
Great. Thank you so much, Gayatri. And I want to hold this book aloft again, and huge shout out. Please do read it. I think it's quite transformative. And then I think we'll all sign up with Gayatri and take her course as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And it's been amazing talking to you. As you know, I have the greatest respect for you. And I've learned so much from you. So thank you so much. And please read my book, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Pawan. Over to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, Gayatri. This was rather insightful, fantastic conversation with ma'am today. I think all of us who joined here today on on Zoom and on Facebook must have got some really interesting insights. Absolutely. So go buy the book. It's available on Amazon and other platforms, of course. And I wish you, on behalf of Tiffin Talks, we wish you all the best for the next book and your next columns and the new other tasks which you're getting into. Guys, please follow us on our Facebook and on our Insta pages. It's by the name Tiffin Talks. We'll be uploading this video on YouTube as well, on our YouTube channel Tiffin Talks tomorrow morning. Till then, we meet next. It's goodbye and good evening. Take care.
Thank you, Gayatri. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.